Welcome to episode 38 of the Becoming MindStrong podcast. If you've hung out here before, what I'm about to say is not going to be shocking to you. If you're new here, what I'm about to say is going to piss you off. So before I say it, don't shoot the messenger. This is a truth of human biology. It is not Rachel's laws of health and fitness. If I could change this truth, it would be the first truth that I change. Alas, it's not how human beings were designed. And that truth is this: it is physically impossible to lose fat and build muscle at the same time. Any company out there telling you build muscle while you lose fat is completely bullshitting you. It is a physical impossibility. That's the bad news. If you're new here and you're freaking out right now, stay with me because it gets better, I promise. The good news is there's a workaround, right? We've all seen enough people in shape and people with big muscles or lean sculpted muscles, depending on your goals, to know that that does not mean that we cannot build muscle. What it means is we have to get clear on our goals, number one. And number two, we have to learn the cycle. There's a cycle for when we lose weight, when we build new muscle, and when we do what's called maintaining, when we stay there. So that's exactly what we're going to dig into today. We're going to talk about bulking, cutting, and maintenance, what they are, and how to know when it's time to do each one. Check it out. Welcome to Becoming MindStrong, the official podcast of MindStrong Fitness. My name is Rachel. I'm the owner and head coach of MindStrong Fitness, and I am here to teach you truth. No more bullshit, no more point systems, no more shakes, no more wraps. This is math and science, and we're going to learn how to do it together. Ready? Let's rock and roll. So we're going to start this conversation with me painting a picture using a bodybuilder's journey. Now, I say that understanding that most of us listening, including myself, do not have aspirations of being a professional bodybuilder, right? That has never been a goal of mine. It's not something I see myself doing. With the exception of a handful of people listening, most of us here are not in it for that purpose. However, the picture that this paints is so clear, and this is what helped me really lock it in place, that my hope is that it'll do the same for you. So let's say Jennifer is a professional bodybuilder. Okay, Jennifer is going to spend, I'm going to say 6 months. Most bodybuilders do not do it in 6-month increments, but for the purposes of keeping this simple, we're going to say 6 months. Jennifer is going to spend 6 months in what we call a bulking cycle. Here's what happens during a bulking cycle. Jennifer is going to go to the gym. She's going to lift heavy because we know by now that the only way to build muscle is by pushing our muscles to do what they can't yet do. If you don't know that yet, go back and listen to the podcast all about building lean sculpted muscles, and I'll explain how it works scientifically. In order to build new muscle, I'll give you the cliff notes. You have to push your muscles to do what they can't yet do. So Jennifer goes to the gym, however many days she's going to train, we'll say 6 days a week, and she lifts heavy and she pushes her muscles to do what they can't yet do. When she eats throughout these 6 months, Jennifer is going to be in what we call a caloric surplus. This means that she is purposely eating more calories than she burns every single day. Here's what that means. 1, Jennifer gets to eat more food. That typically means she's stronger in the gym because food are our calories. The more calories in we have, the more energy we have to burn. So more calories equals more strength in the gym. 2, Jennifer can build new muscle. The only way to build muscle is to be in a caloric surplus, is to be eating more calories than we burn. Why? Because as our body recovers our muscles and it heals, it needs extra calories to build that muscle. If we're not eating enough food, it's using all those calories just to get through the day. There's nothing left to build. And 3, Jennifer's going to put on some weight. She's going to do it in a way where hopefully most of what she's building is muscle. But it will never be the case that 100% of the weight she puts on is muscle. She's going to watch the scale go up. She's going to feel her clothes get tighter. It's going to be uncomfortable at times. Even if Jennifer does this for a living and knows that it is part of the bulking process, it's still going to happen. She's still going to feel her clothes get tighter and the scale is going to go up and she's probably going to be uncomfortable. So for 6 months, Jennifer is in a caloric surplus. We call it a bulking cycle. She's lifting heavy. She is purposely eating more calories than she burns. She is building new muscle and putting on weight. Now Jennifer has a show coming up. So she transitions to what's called a cutting cycle. Here's what's going to happen during Jennifer's cutting cycle. 1, she's going to continue to go to the gym 6 days a week. She's going to continue to push her muscles to do what they can't yet do. Did you notice the way she trains did not change even a little bit? What she does in the gym does not change. The only thing that's about to change, spoiler alert, is her nutrition. Now Jennifer transitions to what we call a caloric deficit, eating less calories a day than she burns. Here's what's going to happen. Jennifer's going to start to lose weight. The only way to lose fat is to eat less calories in a day than you burn, to be in this caloric deficit. Second thing, she might lose some strength in the gym. Less calories in equal less energy equals less strength in the gym. Her clothes are going to start to feel differently. With that weight loss, it means that she's now shedding the extra weight she put on during her bulk. And now she's going to start to show off that muscle that she built. So we need to understand a few things here. The way Jennifer trained in the gym, the way she lifted weights did not change whether she was bulking in a caloric surplus or cutting in a caloric deficit. Second thing, the point of this cycle is that she's spending a period of time purposely eating more calories than she burns with the goal of putting on more muscle. Then she's spending a period of time purposely eating less calories than she burns so that she sheds the fat covering that muscle and shows them off. Now, I'm going to pause here. There's one more step called maintenance, which we're going to get to. Most people, when they learn this, get very confused and say, well, I don't know where to start because I want to build new muscle, but I also want to get rid of some of this fat we have, right? That's the dream for all of us. All of us want to build new muscle and lose fat. Here's what we need to understand. Most of us, unless we have goals of being a professional bodybuilder or unless we just really, really want the big, big muscly look, most of us want to get into a deficit and lose weight. The exception is if you're very underweight right now, if you identify as very skinny and you want to gain, that's different. But most people listening to this podcast, most people in the MindStrong family, our goal is to lose. Here's the good news. When you go in a cutting phase, when you get in a caloric deficit to lose weight, people will start coming up to you and saying, holy cow, your arms look so strong. What have you been doing in the gym lately? Because most of us have muscle on our body. All of us have muscle on our body to different degrees. So simply losing the fat on top of it is enough to start showing it off. For me personally, when I'm in my bulking phase, I look kind of puffy. I look less shapely than I normally do. When I switch to a cutting phase, I'm not growing any new muscle. I'm just shedding that fat that's covering. And what happens every single time, because I'm on social media, I'm doing videos, whatever, every single time I go to a cutting phase, people say to me things like, holy cow, your muscles got way bigger. Your muscles are looking huge. And what they don't realize is my muscles aren't growing right now. It's the work I did in that bulking phase that I'm now showing off once I shed the fat. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling super deflated, like, no, I want to build new muscle, but I also want to lose fat, I don't know which one to do. Here's the test. Right now, are you happy with the weight that you're sitting at? And weight doesn't have to mean the number on the scale. When you look at your body right now, is it the goal that you want to be at in terms of look? If the answer is no, if you feel like you're underweight, if you identify as no, my answer, Rachel, is no, I'm too skinny, I'm underweight, then you would go into a bulk. You would purposely eat more calories than you burn to put on weight to start building muscle. If you're in the majority of people listening to this podcast and your answer is, well, I want to build muscle, but no, I'm not happy with my weight right now because I'm overweight, you're going to want to go into a cut. You're going to want to start with a caloric deficit. Okay. We're only talking about a starting place right now. These are called cycles for a reason, because here's what's going to happen. And then we'll get to maintenance. Here's what's going to happen. Let's say you listen to this podcast, you decide, yeah, I need to lose some weight first. That's my first goal. So you get in a caloric deficit, you learn how. I'll give you some resources at the end of this to learn how. You get in a caloric deficit, you lose weight, a few months go by, you look incredible. You're all that muscle that was already on your body is showing. You get to a place where you're like, you know what? I am feeling incredible. Like, I feel good about where I'm sitting. I don't need to lose any more weight. Here I am. Now you have a choice. Okay. Now you have gotten to whether it's your goal weight or your goal pant size or into your goal dress, whatever your personal goal is. Now you have a choice. If you want to hang out there for a while, you're going to switch to what's called the maintenance stage. This is the third stage. We had a bulk, which is a caloric surplus. We had a cut, which is a caloric deficit. And then we have a maintenance. Maintenance, as you may guess, means that we maintain. So if a bulk was eating more calories than we burn, and a cut was eating less calories than we burn, maintenance is eating just about the same. So you would figure out at what caloric intake is not much changing. The scale's pretty much staying the same. Your clothes are fitting pretty consistently. You're just maintaining. It's a great place to stay if you don't want to lose anymore. You're not ready to start building and getting uncomfortable in your clothes. You just want to hang out here. We call that maintenance. Okay, so let's say months have gone by, you've lost all this weight, you're feeling good, you decide, I'm going to maintain for a while. So you maintain for a couple months. Now you start getting the itch. You're like, you know what? I'm looking good. I've been sitting here for a while. Things are going well. I think I'm ready to start building some of those lean, sexy muscles that Rachel's always teaching us about. You will slowly transition. You'll slowly start raising your calories into a bulk. Now, I say slowly because that's how I recommend doing it. There are plenty of people who do what's called a dirty bulk. Because think about it, a bulk just means you're eating more calories than you burn. So there are people who say, cool, this is a free-for-all, and they start downing burgers and ice cream and anything and everything because they know they just need to get calories in. And you can do that. It works. The problem is you're going to put on a lot more fat as you're building muscle. And when the time comes to start losing it, you're going to have more to lose. I do bulks very slowly, very regimented, because it's like the trickle down effect. We're just dropping little drops in a bucket of water instead of pouring it in so it overflows. What happens when we do it slowly like that is the goal is to build as much muscle as possible without putting too much fat on. You're still going to gain. That's the nature of a bulk. Your clothes are still going to get tighter. It's a mind game. A big part of bulk is also a mind game because we have to understand that, which we'll talk about in a second. But when we do it slow and controlled, we can monitor the process. It's not this free for all. So you'll go into your bulk for a few months. You'll keep lifting heavy. You'll keep eating more calories than you burn. And then the cycle starts over. After a few months, you might decide, here we go. I've built a bunch of muscle, and we'll transition back to the cut to show off that new muscle. It's almost like if you picture someone carving into marble, right? We have the big marble block and we're chipping away until we get the sculpture we want. The difference here is once the sculpture's done, we can rebuild the marble and build the sculpture again a little bit more muscular and do it again and again. This is a cycle that goes on and on. Now, two things I want to address. One, common question I get is how long does each cycle have to last? There's no right or wrong to this. The one thing I will tell you is it's not weeks, it's months. Bulking for 2 weeks, or I'm going to bulk today, I'm going to cut tomorrow. That's not how this works. We need to be in it for a few months at a time. Okay. It's very personal, person to person, depending on your goals. It's beyond the scope of this, but understand this conversation is about months. It is not a transition we make day to day or even week to week. The second thing I will say is about the bulk. I mentioned this in the beginning. I've been doing this for years, and I understand logically that a bulk is going to be uncomfortable. By the end of my bulks, I'm typically carrying around about an extra 20 pounds, and it is uncomfortable. My clothes don't fit anymore. I can see rolls in places there aren't normally rolls. I'm used to seeing veins in my arms. I can't see those anymore. And logically, as a coach, I completely trust the process, and it's still uncomfortable. It doesn't negate the fact it's uncomfortable. And this comes down to the bigger mindset conversations that we've had here. It is a choice, right? I know that I have such control over my nutrition that I am choosing to put on this weight for the purposes of building new muscle. If I wake up tomorrow and I decide, you know what, I can't take it anymore, I'm too uncomfortable, cool. I can switch my nutrition that moment and start getting in a deficit and start losing weight. It's a choice. There's not a have to, there's not a should. I can stop at any time I want. I'm telling you this for two reasons. One, because we have to always remind ourselves that it's choice, not a have to. And two, this is the power that understanding macro tracking and having that level of control over your nutrition gives you. We can rest assured that when I hit a point where I can't take it anymore, it's not a guessing game. It's not, can I lose this weight? It's, when am I ready to lose this weight? And just think back to, if you're someone who tracks macros, think back to the days before you track macros. Can you imagine the confidence of saying, it's not if I can lose weight, it's when do I want to? Because 99% of people walking on this earth don't understand how to do it or to have that control to just flick the switch. And that is the beauty that of control that macros give you. So if you need help at the end of this podcast, I'll give you some suggestions of where to get help with this. There's a lot more to the logistics of cuts, bulk, and maintenance, but the point of this podcast was for you to understand the cycles. If you identify as being underweight, you're going to want to get into a bulk. It means being in a caloric surplus, eating more calories than you burn, putting on some weight, and if you're lifting, building new muscle. If you're not happy with your current weight, if you're looking to lose, rest assured you already have muscle under there. We're still going to lift. We're still going to tone. We're going to strengthen those muscles, but we're not going to build new muscle. What we're going to do is we're going to shed the fat covering that muscle to show it off. If you're happy with where you are right now and you just want to get into macros to stay the same, or you've already done a cut or already done a bulk and now you're ready to flow, to ride it for a while, then you're going to stay at your maintenance calories, eating just about the same number of calories as you burn in a day. It's all about choice. And at the end of the day, your choice is not lifelong. This is a cycle, and it's one you'll do over and over again. For help with macros and to dive deeper into bulks, cuts, and maintenance, go to my website, www.mindstrongfitness.com.